Okay, so today we are actually going to look at Android Studio and using Android Studio to actually start making apps that we can distribute on the Android platform. So if you have Android Studio opened up and installed, I should have some links on the e-learning site showing you where to get Android Studio and how to install it. We're going to assume you're already installed. We're going to start a new project. Brings us up to our first screen. Pretty self-explanatory. A couple things I do want to talk about. So application name is what you want to call it. Your company domain name, if you have a website where you're going to be distributing your company, or a company website where you're going to be distributing your apps, you would put that in. Now you notice the package name is just the reverse of your company domain. So if I owned nicholas_sasevich.example.com, when I created my package that I want to distribute on Google Play Store, it just reverses the domain name. So instead of ending with the .com, it starts with com.example.nicholasasevich.myapplication. Now the only thing you have to keep in mind about that is if you go to post this on Google Play Store and sell it, it has to have a unique package name. So I can't, if somebody already has com.example.nicholasasevich.myapplication on there, I won't be able to post my project. I'll have to change my package name. Since we're not planning on selling this application at this time, just the defaults are okay. Project location, obviously, where you're going to save your project. I click on Next. Now the first options you have in here are what device and what API. Remember, API stands for Application Programmer Interface. What Android API you want to use. Now, rule of thumb when you start publishing these is you go to the lowest one and you work your way up, right? So as you get more experience using Android, you'll know certain versions of Android have certain functionality and classes that you need to make use of. So you know, the lower a version of Android you can use, the more devices are going to be able to run your project. Not every Android device is able to run the latest and greatest Android version of Android. So just keep that in mind when you're trying to design your apps to actually sell. For right now, again, we're not planning on selling this, so I'm just going to use the defaults. Now it asks you to add an activity to your project. Activities are just a different way of saying screen. So, you know, what type of screen do you want to have on your project? What type of frame? All right, the most closest equivalent would be a J-frame in our Swing package from Java. We're just going to select a blank activity. I'm going to finish our project, and this is going to take a minute to install. Now, through the magic of video, I'm just going to skip right past the whole loading and go. We've got our project actually opened up, and the subject of the next video will be actually coding our first app and making it work. This is all about setting up Android so that you can use it, or Android Studio. First place you're going to want to go is to the SDK Manager. So remember, SDK stands for Software Development Kit. And inside the SDK Manager, if you wanted a different version of Android to run, you can install it here. There's some build tools that you can install. We're not really concerned with those right now. Oh, and if you see a script that tells you that it's not loading correctly, what you might want to do, shouldn't be an issue at home, but you might want to switch you can set proxy server settings in here, but you can go force HTTPS, and that should solve some of your package loading errors if it's not loading, if you're not getting this full screen of options. So two things that we need to have installed, and I'm going to explain why we need them installed in a second. So we need Google USB driver, and we need Intel x86 emulator accelerator. Now the reason we need both of those is this isn't like a traditional Java program. You can't just run it and see the results. You have to run it in the Android environment. So there's two ways of running your app on the Android environment. One is using the Google USB driver if you have a phone at home, if you have an Android phone or a tablet or some sort of Android device that you can connect up with your with a USB cable to your computer, you can actually run your program on your device. So to do that, you need to install the Google USB driver. You'll need to also go and install a specific driver for your device onto your computer, whether it's a Mac or a Windows system. And the other thing you'll have to do in your device is you'll have to switch it to developer mode. Now, you'll have to Google how to do that, but for most devices, you'll go to the About, you'll click on the Build setting. There's a build version in the About menu, and if you click on that 7 times, it'll actually turn on developer mode for most devices. So if you want to run it using your own device, that's how you do it with the Google USB driver. Now, if you want to run a virtual device, which is what we're going to do, you have to have Intel x86 emulator accelerator installed. Now, there's 2 steps to this. If this isn't installed currently on your system and you try and run a virtual Android device, which I'll show you how to do in a minute, it'll say HACS emulator not installed. You got an issue. What you have to do is click on install, and what this will do is actually save it onto your hard drive under C drive /users/Android. There'll be an exe in there that you'll have to go and actually run. So again, I'll post some links and resources on how to install that, but once you do have that HACS system installed, now we can run a virtual device. So to run a virtual device, we go to our device manager. And here's a list of my virtual devices. Now, in the bottom left-hand corner, I can click on Create Virtual Device to create a new device. There's a default one that comes with, by default, with Android Studio. You might want to create a smaller one, and especially if your computer's a little bit older, because these virtual devices do take a lot of memory. It's like you're running, a phone operating system or a tablet operating system on your computer. So it can be memory intensive, it can be slow, and it can take some time. I've got a test one installed, so I'm going to press play to run it. This should take a minute. Now first, when it pops up, it's just going to be black. Again, through the power of video, I can skip past this waiting. As I said, at first it'll be a black screen. You'll see Android pop up, and if you wait long enough, after a minute or two, you should see like the home screen of an actual device. Again, the power of video, I've got it. And you would use your mouse, and you could actually turn this on and off just like you would a regular Android device, right? So I can pull up the messaging in there, which is pretty cool. So I've got a virtual Android device running on my computer now. Now, the key to this is now that I have it running on my computer, I can press play. And it'll ask me to choose a device to actually run my activity on, to run my project on. You'll notice emulator test Android, the Android device that we just ran is on there. If you installed the Google driver, if you set your device to developer mode, if you installed the specific driver to your computer for that device, and you had it connected to your computer right now, you would also see your device on there. I could launch a new emulator, but that'll take a minute, so let's just choose our running device. And there's our first Android application that we've done, and by default it does our beautiful Hello World project that we do with every project.